Alright, we are the Valenzetti Equation, and this is our commentary of our new EP, Trial of Eden.
Yeah. So the album is about Michael and Lucifer and their accounts of the creation of mankind and sort of putting them on trial, and then God gives his final statement, sort of.
As the Egyptian-esque comes in.
Yeah, so like this part is supposed to be sort of like there's this guy wandering through a desert or wilderness somewhere, and he's searching for tablets that hold the scriptures, I guess you could say, of
The scroll.
this whole idea. So it's supposed to be sort of like putting you in a mindset of the desert, and that's really what this whole thing is supposed to be. It's supposed to be like setting the stage.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of cool because it sets, like, the ambiance of the song, like, in the beginning sets, like, the setting.
Yeah.
I feel like if you actually think about that, it kind of clicks and makes sense. But honestly, my favorite part of the intro is probably just, like, this part right here because it's so raw on what it is. Plus, the recording was awesome. I mean, I didn't even play it, which is the best part.
Yeah. We actually recorded it in his house in an empty room. Yep.
Yeah, it worked out really well. We weren't sure how that was going to turn out, but
It was pretty easy to get a good sound in there, which was kind of cool.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, here comes the intro, so let's not ruin it.
Wait
for it. Wait
You
for it.
always gotta wait before.
So I remember writing this. I had this in a completely different song, and it was sort of in a completely different element of the song. And this song had like 30 different forms. We had the idea of sort of starting it off with a longer instrumental to like sort of be like almost like the opening credits in a sense.
I must say, though, the synth in the background is what does it. Like, screw the guitar fast playing, like, we can do that, but it's like, the synth is really cool because it really adds the ambiance to the track.
Builds it up, yeah.
I like listened through it a few times and just threw in synth wherever I like felt it needed to be.
Mostly, the thing that gets me is the guitar work's extraordinary, but so is the drum. Like, it's like the drums that are written are actually really, really good. I mean, to a certain degree.
And to clarify, this is the drummer, right here.
He does drum.
He bangs things.
Yeah.
It sticks.
We also did forget to mention the fact that there were the bongos and all that kind of stuff that was in the intro. That was cool too.
Yeah.
That was a really, really good thing to have.
This part is kind of funny because really what happened was we were recording the guitar and Trent couldn't play this riff for some reason. So we just were like, alright, we'll come back and record it later. And then Matt had recorded his bass part. And then we were like, it sort of sounds cool without a guitar part. So then we just kind of left it like that and put some sort of back ambience type thing with the guitars.
And this is really cool because it peels it back, adds it back to the rawness of playing guitar with, like, all the other extra effects. Like, there's none of that. It's just acoustic guitar. And then bringing it back into this. It's really, really, I feel like this song has a lot of dynamic to it for just being an instrumental.
It's definitely not the same plane.
And it's very it's very climactic, especially at the end, which you'll get to see or hear. Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty interesting.
It's kind of like a roller coaster ride, so to speak.
Not to mention this guitar solo, I also did not play. because our drummer is also an extraordinary guitarist.
Yep.
And that is not an understatement. I guess I should say overstatement. Understatement would be
I don't know. This is cool.
Say, Matt got really bored during this song. He had nothing to do.
I feel like his vocals really shine on this one. Yeah, this part is funny because I remember for a while I was just like, hey, you guys think would you care if I put a drum solo in the song? And they were down for it. And then it was sort of didn't have a drum solo for like ever.
And listen to the accidental key change that we wrote.
Yeah, there's an accidental key change
That's
where
so good.
in the tablature program we had made it through the 7th string that we had started using, and it sort of did the key change on itself, and we were like, that sounds really cool, let's keep it that way.
basically.
And then Trent, here's the
My 7
4-minute guitar solo or whatever.
Oh my gosh. This makes Stairway to Heaven seem like a short song.
This is probably one of my favorite solos, though, for sure.
I was gonna say.
It's definitely a lot different solo than anything we've ever really done.
Oh, for sure.
The interesting thing is the improv that's there. It's not
Yeah,
like
this was-
it's based on written material, but it's kind of just like he just kind of told me to just do my own thing and feel it for the most part. And I think it came out better that way than it would have if we would have tried to make it just
Prepared.
yeah, exactly. And again, it just sets an amazing setting and tone. I just kind of feel like I'm going through this long journey of, you know, excitement down to this like, you know, kind of unsure kind of section of life. And you know, it's just it's not until the very end of the song where the climactic part comes in that you actually begin to feel like, you know, this is an uplifting kind of deal. And I think that's cool that we managed to make a metal song sound somewhat uplifting.
It's like, I kind of picture like this part, like as he's like traveling in the desert, like he's getting weary, and like him searching for the scrolls.
I just imagine like the calling to order, like everybody walking into like the courtroom of Eden right now.
Yeah.
Is essentially what's going on before everybody pleads their case.
Yeah.
And it's just a really, really epic deal.
It's sort of like, for me, it's like right here he sort of finds what he's been looking for this whole time. Like, he's really like excited to like, that this whole moment that he's been working his life for, he's found it.
Yeah.
And he's really excited to peel into it.
I think it's cool that it's kind of like, you know, a story inside of a story. It's almost like the main character of the story would really be the guy that was walking through. But then it's like, there's a story, like that story, and then the story that he's reading is a story about the child, which is really cool. So, I mean, overall, it's a really good song.
And then Trent's sweet that it took forever to get. And then there's a xylophone real quietly in the background.
Is it really? Just wait till
I never knew that.
Just wait till you get to the next song, you get to hear Josiah go,
Alright, so now we're at Vessel. This is basically Michael's standpoint on the whole thing.
It's kind of interesting because if you think of it as like a trial, it's kind of like a trial, but it's like the humans are on trial, but the one speaking about it is Michael, Lucifer, and God, which is interesting because, you know, usually you think of like the judge, which would be God, and then a plaintiff, and like, you know, an accused defendant or something like that. But I think it's interesting because it's more supposed to be like a conversation than a trial, I think.
Yeah.
But it's definitely, you know, the idea of a trial amongst everybody being humans. And
Sort of like an informal trial.
I mean, you know, God's will is God's will, so whatever they say is kind of superficial anyway. But it's interesting. It's an interesting concept if they had an argument.
I think it was me and you that were first talking about the idea. We kind of had this idea of like, hey, like I kind of had this idea that, well, let's write a different type of perspective. You know, everyone writes about God from a human standpoint, you know, all sorts of things just from a human perspective. Where I was like, I want to kind of see what angels have to say about it. And then he was coming in like, yeah, I've been like thinking kind of the same thing, but from Lucifer's perspective. So that's kind of where we began with the concept.
Pieced it together, we were like, alright, so if we have Michael and Lucifer, what else can we throw in there?
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of a trial sort of came a little later.
Well, like in the beginning, like when the lyrics started, it's kind of Michael like questioning God, like why did you create these beings? Like you see that they're taking everything for granted. It's kind of like before he's speaking, it's like his own thoughts, like himself before he's like speaking his case to God about what he feels about the humans.
Yeah, because I think that's something that's pretty important to clarify is the fact that like Michael's not giving up servitude to God. He's all game for it. It's kind of like an unsurety of like new things.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, you know, when like, you know, I don't know, when like a new baby is born or something like that, someone else is brought into the world, you kind of feel like all the attention is going.
This part's pretty funny, is we were writing this song, that
Yeah, that part.
It was actually started as like a joke. We're like, let's just throw that in there, and then we put it in there and just like,
Yeah, and
why not?
The drum equation tab master just puts it on there real quick, and then we just keep it. It was so cool. I think it was really interesting.
And this thing in the background is this Evo, which actually kind of is sprinkled throughout the album. It sounds really cool.
I didn't know what that was. I just saw you added that in there, like, and I was like, oh, that sounds pretty sweet.
Clearly Matt's behind on the instrumental.
Clearly.
I mean, a lot of this stuff I did without
like,
anybody
basically,
around.
yeah.
I just like had the idea, threw it on real quick.
Yeah. We also should talk about the recording vocals aspect of this song too, because I feel like each song is individually like dealt with, you know,
Different style.
The genre style is based on basically the lyrical content of the song. So like this song being like a kind of more metalcore-ish, and then you've got basically like, you know, the Lucifer song, which is basically like, you know, partially black metal kind of, you know, with those like, you know, deep, like dark kind of attacking vocals.
God's just like a real dark atmosphere.
And then God is just like the mixture of basically everything that we've known. It's very, very like Valenzetti in sound, but it's got some differences to it too. I mean, you know, it really hits pretty hard. And I think the interesting thing is that the first take for the vocals, I mean, you know, for this song was absolutely perfect and on the mark. Like, I think we were extremely happy with whenever we put it through. I mean, you know, it was amazing just getting, you know, to be like it was a privilege to get to see what this was like to be finished.
Yeah, because it had been sort of on the back burner for a while, and then it felt so like relieving to actually finally get it and hear how it's gonna sound.
I think this is funny because this is the one guitar part I told you about before. When we were recording this guitar part right here, like the I didn't realize it when my pickup was actually on my neck pickup when I was recording it rather than my bridge pickup. So I was just like, oh crap. And then after the fact, I was like, that sounds pretty good. So we just kind of kept it that way rather than changing it. So I mean, it was interesting. I mean, it was cool. The recording process was very, very strenuous, but I think at the same time it was also fulfilling and helpful too.
Sort of
Because we've definitely
involving.
Yeah, we've definitely become better instrumentalists too.
This is like 7 of me singing this part.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Like singing super falsetto and super low.
Can you give us an example?
No. It sounds really bad if you solo it, but when you put layer and sound together,
That's really good tight.
sounds good.
Which I think is kind of the moral part of this, is whenever you compile all like the facts together, you know, you basically get a good finished product, which is opposed to what our last CD was, miles ahead. That's not an understatement.
Yeah, and so like at the end of the song, basically Michael is like, God, like make me the vessel, sort of what the song is. He's like, let the sound of trumpet rain, let you like God's will, basically, like help me do what your will, like show me what you want.
That was really fun working with you.
Oh, it was a blast. We kind of collabed.
It was like with like the patterns and stuff, which it was really good.
So now this is Facade of Light, which is
Probably
Lucifer's
too.
song. Yeah.
Lucifer in this song, he's upset right now with the whole fact of like, it's kind of similar like where Michael was questioning it, like he's questioning it too, but he feels like we should just wipe out all of humanity, that they're worthless, and that they don't deserve any of this goodness here, you know, that, but Lucifer instead wants all the power that God has, and he wants to take control of his angels following him instead.
I think another interesting thing is the riffs in this song, realistically, on like a guitar level, aren't that difficult. It's very, very like, this one, we're bringing it back to like, you know.
This one is more about setting an atmosphere, sort of really being like super technical or anything.
The breakdown, let's talk about that.
This breakdown is based off the Valenzetti equation. If you've ever watched Lost, it's 4-8, 1-5, 1-6, 2-3, 4-2, which is basically just the numbers broken up individually. So it's just kind of a cool idea to throw in there. It took a little for everyone to get used to it.
This part right here is ridiculous if you like want to play it live, because I feel like me and you collab vocally and play together.
It's like it's harmonizing.
It's so neat. I mean, from a recording aspect, it's not that difficult to play, but it definitely sets an atmosphere. And it's just it's a scary song to think about. Because you've got these evil chords, and you've just got this really, really dissonant, strumming in the background. It's just very, very interesting and yet the construction of the song. So.
I'd say this was probably the most conflicting song that I had to write, because I personally hate writing stuff that sounds like bashing on God. It took me a while for me to actually be comfortable with actually writing and playing this song. But just to let you know, I'm not bashing on God. It's to tell the story of what is happening. And it took me a while to actually realize
And there he was talking about Lilith, who, if you listen to some mythologies, it's believed that she was the first wife of Adam, and that essentially she became the first demon. And it was sort of like Lucifer was like, you call these creatures like your own, but look how easily I can just turn them against you and make them mine. And it's really, for me, I imagine this song as how God, like the angel would feel if God didn't have any grace. Like we would be destroyed, and essentially that would be our fate.
Yeah.
If it wasn't there, if there wasn't grace.
This is really interesting. I think we really touched on the peeling stuff, slamming into stuff. We've really done that a lot with these songs. This is probably one of my most favorite riffs on the CD. I think
This one, yeah,
we can
I love
agree.
it. And it's like not very complicated or anything. It's just
But it's just when it comes back in, it just socks you. It just really hits you right here. It's really cool.
Here you can kind of hear a harmonic on the riff you were playing really quietly in the background. And for a while we were like, oh, should we re-record that? But then almost it kind of sounds right out.
You gotta tell them about that.
I'm just saying, we all make mistakes.
This part is probably definitely the heaviest part of the song. Also conflicting, but it was interesting how it was recorded vocally, because you basically have two channels, left and right, that are doing the repeats, and then in the single you have like a long extended lower hard out, which, I mean, I don't really know how to describe it other than the fact that it's just pure freaking metal. That's it. What else do you say of it?
I agree.
And I think that reading the lyrics, listening to this song really, really gets you into that mindset of, how Lucifer may or may not have felt about God. I mean,
I almost think it gives a perspective to how, we are seen as humans almost, where, according to him, we are dirt.
Yeah.
And he's really, the only reason that he has any contact with us is to deceive us and come out by.
I think another interesting thing is the fact that it creates a level of sympathy that you can possibly feel. I mean, at the end of the day, how could you ever feel sympathetic towards somebody that was just like, you're dirt, you're nothing, da-da. But at the same token, it's like basically a guy that feels like he's had his back turned, his back turned on him. It's very, very, very interesting. And I'm not saying, like Matt said, we're not trying to support that, but in all actuality, it's an interesting concept to think about, because basically being kicked out of heaven, it must have been cause for something that was very, very evil and desolate, I guess.
Yeah. So this song is Revelation, which is sort of like an interlude. And the reason it's called Revelation is because we pictured the guy had found two scrolls, which were the Michael scroll and the Lucifer scroll. And after he read them, he sort of had a revelation of God, where he had a vision of the final statement of God. And that's sort of where the revelation came in, and that's kind of what this whole thing is supposed to display, this song. I think it's a good break in the song as well, where it's been sort of onslaught, but for the most part, and then now you kind of get sort of a break in the album, and then really sets the tone for the final song.
Yeah, I feel like it's a very, very, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's something that really, really sets you up for, like, you know, a big, you know, change in the music too. But I also think that the interesting part for me is the fact that I feel like the guy that we're speaking of in the story has a revelation to the point where he can already kind of concede what God is going to say.
Yeah.
Because of just the tone of the song. It's very, like, you know, just, I'm not sure. And then this is almost like getting rid of all unsurety going into this song. It's like basically
I
this
feel
is
like-
the final judgment.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like it really sets the tension
Yeah.
of the moment where God is going to make his statement.
Yeah.
this guitar solo was very, very interesting in trying to play. It was like getting note for note was very, very difficult. But I mean, you know, it's just like the rest of the album. I feel like the writing really, really pushed us to do things that we couldn't normally do, and now we're able to, which I think is tenfold of any sitcom. Playing abilities, writing abilities, very interesting. I remember when Josiah came up with this riff. We were just kind of sitting there and just like, and I looked at it and I was like, dude, I'm never going to be able to play that.
Yeah, and here we are.
Sure enough, you know,
I'm playing it too fast in practice.
Yeah.
How it always is.
And then this riff right here is one that I basically had Matt's acoustic guitar at his house. And I was sitting there playing around and I was like, Darren,
Just playing around, and you're like, don't forget that.
Yeah. And so it ended up all different. So I mean, it was really, really cool. Which then spawned into this riff, which is kind of similar. And then
Just wait. I just have to say, I came to practice one day, and you know, I'm into that beatdown-esque music and whatnot, all the heavy stuff, and they have this tabbed out on tablet, and I come, we just gotta share you this one part. And I'm like, alright, yeah, I'm really digging this song, I'm really digging it, and then when that comes in, the look on my face just completely changed, like, this is what I wanted.
I think we've also got to attribute that to it, because you brought that up. It's kind of like a partially Lorna Shore kind of deal that you did there, where you changed the quarter note to like
Well, the idea of like where it like slowed down by a triplet sort of.
Yeah. So I mean, it's really, really interesting in the timing change, but at the end of the day, it's just. And another thing we forgot to comment on is the fact that for some reason, unknown to us, the bass sounds way better in this song.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
I don't know
It's
why.
so distinct.
I don't remember what we did differently.
And I wish we could remember because we could have changed it.
But
It is what it is. And then this riff is ironic because I've always wanted to play more harmonics. It's the one thing that I've really,
I remember we were like had this up to this song written like up to this point, and he's like, "Will you just do a riff with a bunch of harmonics?" So I was like, "All right."
It reminds me so much of Hits, without a doubt.
which has been one of our biggest inspirations over the course of any writing, I feel like, to a degree.
So this is the coming back to the beginning, and it's sort of like God's actually coming back. Before he was sort of addressing each person individually, and now he's sort of like, here's what's my plan, sort of.
He kind of hints towards it before, like where,
I will say that I will say that part really sets you up and throws you through a loop because it's kind of like we're originally gonna do the cliche thing where you do like the intro to the breakdown and then you actually do it. Well, instead we changed it up and did something completely different and then came back to what we were hinting at in the beginning.
Yeah, so it's sort of like hits you unexpectedly, but then at this part you get like that. You're like, oh yeah, this is what I was expecting. Okay.
Which I feel kind of thing, you know? I just get that kind of groove going when I play the song. And then this part's just basically like, I mean, this part's get jiggy with it to shame.
This part was all improv too. It was sort of like we need something real heavy, and we were sitting in my bedroom, and I was like, all right, let's try this, and then that's what came out.
And just like we started the song, we finished it with the kind of ideal of acoustics, just as if the guy would picked up where he left off again.
Yeah.
If he stopped playing to find the tablets, he just started playing again because.
I was gonna say the one thing I really like about it is because it has that rawness to it, like the instrumental during the interludes and stuff, like and toward the end here, it's like it sounds like someone literally just picked up a guitar in the middle of the desert and started playing it. Like,
Oh
has
yeah, yeah.
that feeling. It's not a perfectly clean, you can hear the fingers sliding across the frets and stuff.
Oh yeah, it's
Really solid.
Yeah, I didn't clip my
very just-
fingernails
And it was awesome. It turned out really well.
It's just everything from like the wind sounding in the background to like, you know, the Muslim call to prayer in the beginning. It's just, we've never strayed away from playing anything that's like along the lines of, I guess, you know, very Middle Eastern sounding, but
Yeah.
I think that that's basically a big key for us. But it sounds great, and we're glad that we finished it. We're happy with the product, I think.
Yeah.
Yep,
Proud
for
of it.
sure. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So that's basically our EP in a nutshell, and us commenting on it. Thanks for watching. Check out our YouTube channel. Check
Word.
out our Facebook page. You can pre-order, or no, I guess you can actually
Pre-order.
it.
Actually, yeah, you can order.
So you can order it now.
You can actually order it, and I'll
package.
put it in an envelope and put it in the mail for you
And we will send it to you,
to your household.
to your house,
To your house.
To your household.
Your household.
household.
Your household.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.